The English Standard Version is something we talk about a lot. We wonder, is it good? It claims to be an updated version of the King James Version of the Bible. And so I've got this question a lot. People say it's better, it's more understandable, it's more readable. As a member of the King James Bible Research Council, my initial reaction is not, no, it's not an update. My initial reaction is, let's see. Hence the name research. Here is a quote directly taken from the preface of the ESV. It says this: "The English Standard Version stands in the classic mainstream of English Bible translations over the past half millennium. The fountainhead of that stream was William Tyndale's New Testament of 1526. So according to this quote, William Tyndale's New Testament, 1526, is the fountainhead of the stream which produced the ESV. And they cite the King James Version as being part of the stream. So the basic problem is that claim is not actually true. In fact, a little further on in this same preface, we find this statement: "The words and phrases themselves grow out of the Tyndale King James legacy, and most recently out of the RSV, with the 1971 RSV text providing the starting point for our work." So the actual starting point was in fact not Tyndale, 1526. According to their own preface, their actual starting point was the 1971 RSV. And it's based on the Greek text in the 1993 editions of the Greek New Testament, the fourth corrected edition published by the United Bible Societies in Novum Testamentum Graecia, edited by Nestle and Aland, which is the one produced by Westcott and Hort, which underlies the Revised Version. If you're familiar with the discussion at all, you're going to find that that is rejected by King James scholars completely as being a valid text. We don't use that as a valid text. And Westcott and Hort's text varied so dramatically from the Textus Receptus that they had to change the name of even the translation work, which that's how we got the name Revised Version. You can't get an accurate version of the Bible no matter how close you are to your original texts if your original texts are faulty. Some of the verses that are in debate by scholars, whether or not they should be in or not. For example, 1 John 5:7 and the Johannine comma that we debate. 1 John 5:7 says, "For there are three that bear record in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost, and these three are one." And I agree with the King James translators, with Erasmus and many, many others, that that verse is supposed to be there. Here's how the ESV translates 1 John 5:7. "For there are three that testify." That's it. In Acts 8:37, you're probably familiar with this, Philip said, "If thou believest with all thine heart, thou mayest." And he answered, "I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God." And he commanded the chariot to stand still. They went down both into the water, both Philip and the eunuch, and he baptized him. In this case, the eunuch has asked Philip, "Why can't I be baptized?" And Philip said, "You have to believe in your heart." And the Ethiopian eunuch says, "I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God." Well, in the ESV, that verse is completely gone. Why is it gone? Well, because it's not in the Nestle land. And you'll find it's missing in the NIV, it's missing in the RSV, it's missing in several of the new translations, all which have clearly followed the Nestle land, the Westcott and Hort text. The Bible talks about Jesus giving the keys of the kingdom of heaven to us in Matthew chapter 16. In chapter 18, Matthew 18, he talks about what you bound on earth will be bound in heaven, what you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. And I'm trying to understand that, and I go back to Matthew 17, and the disciples, this is the chapter between Matthew 16 and 18, which is both of these chapters concerning themselves with keys. And the disciples are trying to heal this boy, and they can't. They come to Jesus and say, "Why can't we heal him?" And Jesus gives them the key. He said, "This kind cometh not out but by prayer and fasting." Matthew 17:21. Well, if you go back to the Old Testament, Isaiah 58 says, "Is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke?" This is Isaiah is telling us that fasting is a way to unlock certain chains, unlock burdens in people's lives. And when Jesus gives us the key, I believe fasting is one of those keys, according to Matthew 17:21. So he says there, howbeit this kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting. Does the ESV help us understand this better? Does it clarify it? Well, what shocked me was both in Matthew's gospel, and I believe it's in Mark's where it repeats the same story, the idea of fasting is completely removed. In fact, the entire verse is gone in the ESV. The key's not there, which is, the question is why? Well, it's simply this, because the ESV is based upon the Nestle Aland, which is missing that verse. I scratch my head at how a scholar didn't catch this. In Mark 1, it says, as it is written in the prophets, and then it quotes two prophets, Malachi first and then Isaiah. In the ESV, it says, as it is written in Isaiah the prophet, and then it quotes Malachi. So the ESV chose they made a strange selection there, as it were. And I'm like, well, they got it wrong. You just read it in English, that's Malachi, not Isaiah. So why would you switch to that? It makes no sense. The ESV uses the phrase, the only Son, in John 3:16, instead of only begotten Son. We're sons of God, and Jesus calls us brethren, but he himself is the only begotten. And that's a critical point to the understanding of who Jesus is. The only way I can get to God is if God himself comes to me, and he did through Jesus Christ. So if we get Jesus Christ wrong and who he is, then that's dangerous. And so that's why I would say the ESV is a dangerous translation, and I would advise against using it. Even though in your study, you might look at it, and if you've got the original languages and you can research to make sure they got it right or not, you might see how to translate something or how to say it a little more currently. I don't have a problem with some of that. But when it comes to the actual text itself, I don't trust it completely because it's got so many things wrong. So you can read the ESV, and there's a large percentage of it that is merely updated language. That is really, there's not a problem with it. A large percentage of it. Can you get saved reading it? Well, absolutely you can get saved reading the ESV. On that level, I'm going to say to you that the ESV could reach someone's heart. The NIV could reach someone's heart. You could probably read the Cotton Patch version of the Bible and get the basic message. The problem comes with the ESV is when you start trying to hammer out exactly what it all means. As you start trying to learn who Jesus is, there's some obscurities and some things that are dangerous. If you go ahead and choose to follow the ESV and use the ESV, you're going to be missing some things, a lot of things. And there's several books that have come out. I've written one myself you can get on Amazon called The Keys Are Gone. And there's other books out there that are probably even more detailed. But I'm going to say without fear of controversy, I'm saying without fear of controversy with anyone that does any research, that the ESV is not an update of the King James Version any more than the RSV was.